Hare Rama Krishna Hayagriva Rama Krishna Hayagriva Narsimha Vamana Shri Madhusudana Brajendra Nandana Shama Nrsimha Vamana Shri Madhusudana Brajendra Nandana Shama Putana Ghatana Kaitavashatana Putana Ghatana Kaitavashatana Jaya Dasharathi Rama Jaya Dasharathi Rama Yashoda Dulala Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Purandara Yashoda Dulala Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Purandara Gopi Priya Jana Radhika Ramana Gopi Priya Jana Radhika Ramana Bhuvana Sundaravara Bhuvana Sundaravara Ravanantakara Makhana Taskara Gopijana Vastrahari Ravanantakara Makhana Taskara Gopijana Vastrahari Brajera Rakhala गोप वृंदापाल ब्रजर राखाल गोप वृंदापाल चित्त हारे वंशधारी चित्त हारे वंशधारी यशोदानंदना योगींद्र वंदना श्री नंदनंदन श्री भजज ब्रजजन भयहारी योगींद्र वंदना श्री नंदनंदन ब्रजजन भयहारी नवीन नीरद रूप मनोहर नवीन नीरद रूप मनोहर मोहन बंसी बिहारी मोहन बंसी बिहारी यशोदानंदन कंस निषूदन निकुंज रास विलासी यशोदानंदन कंस निषूदन निकुंज रास विलासी कदम्ब कानन रास परायण कदम्ब कानन रास परायण वृंद विपिन निवासी वृंद विपिन निवासी आनंदवर्धन प्रेम निकेतन फूल शर योजक काम आनंदवर्धन प्रेम निकेतन फूल शर योजक काम गोपांगना गण चित्त विनोदन गोपांगना गण चित्त विनोदन समस्त गुण गण धाम समस्त गुण गण धाम जामुना जीवन केली परायण मानस चंद्र चकोरा जामुना जीवन केली परायण मानस चंद्र चकोरा नाम सुधारस गाओ कृष्ण यश नाम सुधारस गाओ कृष्ण यश राखो वचन मन मोर राखो वचन मन मोर हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. This song is actually supposed to be sung early in the morning, not at this time. But anyway, because it contains the names of Lord Krishna, so we can take a little liberty. And also the melody in which it is sung is usually sung only in the morning times, and before noon usually. But it's a very popular song in ISKCON. In our Vrindavan Krishna Balaram Mandir, we sing it in the Mangalarati time at 4:30. Vibhavari Shesha means when the night is has got over. Aloka Pravesha, and the sunlight has just slowly started becoming visible. Nidra Chadi, and give up your sleep and chant the names of Krishna. That's the meaning of this song. Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I hope you have all had a very good lunch, but not too good. So in our journey of the soul, having considered the importance of the human form of life, we saw the different possibilities of the previous lives that can bring a particular soul to the human form of life. Then we also considered the ways and means and factors that determine certain souls coming in as children of certain fathers and mothers. We saw that this is not merely a matter of chance. It can also be, to some degree, or to a very significant degree, regulated by practice of devotional activities, purificatory activities called samskars. And then one can actually induce the right kind of soul or the living entity to come within the human body as our child. So this is the stage where we have reached now. We discussed at length the importance of the Garbhadhana Samskar. And now that the Garbhadhana Samskar is done, the conception has taken place. Now what if the conception doesn't take place? That also happens frequently. If it doesn't happen, then one attempts till such time as it happens, but then one has to purify oneself. And then when after conception there is pregnancy, then also a very important phase begins. So we will now talk about the life within the womb. This is a very, very important period and very significant from many points of view. As far as the Srimad Bhagavatam is concerned, it gives a very detailed description of the growth of the fetus within the womb of the mother. Right from the time the egg is fertilized by the sperm, and then it grows and grows from the shape size of a bubble or even lesser than that until it grows into a child that is ready to be born in 9 months. This period is described in the Bhagavatam with descriptions of what organs of the child develop at what time. This is fascinating. And it correlates very well with modern medical information. So these are some of the little things at a practical level that help us build faith in the scriptures, incidentally. Because medical information about the growth of the fetus and what organ develops at what time is possible only because of modern machinery. Investigative and diagnostic tools are available nowadays, and they have been available only for the last century or so, but not much before that. But the Srimad Bhagavatam has been spoken thousands of years ago, and this information was so accurately provided. You had the quiz. What is the first organ that is developed? The head. And then the other organs gradually start developing. And then eventually in the 7th month, consciousness develops. And typically in the 9th month or maybe a little later, then the baby is ready to be delivered, to come out of the womb. The situation within the womb is very uncomfortable. None of us would like to be cramped up in a crawled position for a long time. It's very difficult. There is no freedom. We are restricted in every way. There's a lot of inconvenience. So the phase within the womb is considered to be a terrible phase. In the 7th month, the Srimad Bhagavatam explains that the child may pray to the Lord by saying, please release me from this very difficult condition. I promise you, when I come out, I will become your devotee, and I will take shelter of your lotus feet. However, when the child comes out, then the child contacts Maya very heavily, and then the child forgets the promise. Incidentally, this is such an ironic thing. When we are born crying when the delivery takes place. And if we don't cry, then the doctor will beat us to make us cry. Because you have to cry to get the respiration going. Any doctors over here? No. So anyway, to get the respiration moving, then the crying has to be there. So when we come in this world, we are crying. And at the time of death also we are lamenting, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. Who wants to leave this world? So we are crying because we have to leave. And in the middle also we are lamenting, crying, oh, I wish I had this, I don't have that. Why is that happening to me? So from birth to death, it's only lamentation, wishing, hankering for so many things. And it is said, it's a very nice quote I read the other day, it makes sense, that when we cry, when we are born, we are crying but everybody else is laughing and smiling because they're happy, right? Oh, it's a birth and everybody celebrates, congratulations, there's a new arrival in your family, so everyone is very happy. It's a joyous occasion. But the person who's born is bitterly crying. And when we die, then others start crying, those around us, and we should be smiling. That is how we should face death. And we should live our life in such a way that we make a difference for the world, for others, in a positive way, in a beneficial way. And when time comes for us to leave the body, others will cry, but we will go away smiling, facing death very fearlessly. So in any case, it all begins there in the womb. The period of life in the womb is misunderstood today, and especially in the context of debates going on in the modern day world, which are phrased in the following terms: pro-choice, pro-life. Is it a big debate here also in Australia? Pro-choice, pro-life? Do you have this debate here? Pro-choice and pro-life. Pro-choice means that the mother has the choice, and therefore if she likes, she can terminate the pregnancy. Of course, up to a certain point. Beyond that is considered illegal, but up to a point you can terminate. That's pro-choice. And pro-life means that the child has life, therefore it overrides your own choice. So you are all pro-life or pro-choice? Pro-life. Now in the world, all of us as devotees, we should be very well equipped with this understanding, because we are faced with these topics whenever we go out, or even in our own life sometimes we may be confronted with these topics. And it is a factor that is aggressively argued by the pro-choice people. They do not consider that the fetus in the womb is a human being. They feel that the mother has a priority over the choice of the fetus. Of course, that is a big topic. The whole topic of abortion needs a separate discussion, but suffice it to say that we recognize that the living entity is entitled to its life from the very beginning in the womb. There is no time at which the child can be considered not a human. Generally, when we kill a human being, it is called murder. Killing an animal is not called murder. Or killing anything that is not human is not called murder. Even though it may be a crime. It may be a crime in a certain country to kill a pet or an animal, but not in the same laws that killing of a human is judged. So therefore they say that before such and such number of weeks, if you terminate the pregnancy, in other words, if you kill the child in the womb, then it's not murder. Our response is, why is it not murder? Is it not a human child? They say, no, it's something that is not yet human. It will become human shortly. But that argument is not logical. Because how is it that something that is not human can become human? Only that which is human can remain human. We can't have something non-human becoming a human. So either it was always human, in which case you can never kill the child in the womb, or you have to give clear logical evidence that at some point in time that which was not human becomes human. And what is it that happens to make it human from a non-human? Do you get this point? What has happened suddenly after 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever it is, that suddenly the child now in the womb becomes a human? And who can judge? Can the court judge? The court is not the right authority to judge that. Now all of you who are grihasthas, who have had children, you know that in pregnancy there are milestones. And when you go to your doctor, then the doctor will check the milestones. Well, 2 months it should be like this, 4 months like this, 6 months like this. And milestones are not exactly always the same for everyone. Different children will develop differently within the womb. Not that everybody will come to the same milestone exactly at the same time. So therefore, by saying that below 6 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, that it's not killing, and after that it's killing, but what if somebody develops earlier, beyond that stage? And what are those criteria? How can you prove that the child is not human before this? The head is there, the body, the organs are growing. So it's definitely a human child. And if you argue that the child is not yet a human because he cannot do so many activities, then tomorrow we will extend the argument to old people. Now old people who are no longer able to do work, well, kill them. I remember when I was in England, somebody called me to a house program in which there were many doctors. And most of them were Indian migrants who had come. And since they were all doctors, they asked me to speak on spirituality for the medical profession. And after the lecture was over, somehow or the other in the question and the answer, somebody said something about abortion, or somehow the topic came up, I don't remember how. And I expressed the point that we accept that abortion is a great crime, it's a great sin, it's a violent act. So one of the doctors suddenly spoke up and said, but if we don't do that, then the population of this world will grow wildly, uncontrolled. This was a doctor speaking. And then I asked him quietly, so if it is population that you want to control through abortion, then what if I kill you to control the population? Is it okay with you? If it's okay to kill a child within the womb to control the population, then why not kill you for controlling the population of the world? Isn't it? But of course, nowadays you can't speak like this. But I did anyway. Because truth has to be spoken. Whatever be the reasoning, whether there was a rape or whether there was whatever reason, what is the fault of the child that you must kill the child? Rape and other such instances, events that happen are problems of grown-ups. It's because our society is so spoiled, because people's consciousness is so spoiled, because we have lost our God consciousness. So then people are doing all these things. But because somebody has done a crime against somebody else, why kill a third person? Do you get the point? What is the fault of the child? That you must kill the child. Yes, the mother will experience a lot of inconvenience, there will be many problems. But then we have to give the social support, financial support, emotional support, whatever other support is there for the mother. But does it justify killing the child in the womb? When the child is very much a living personality who is growing. And the proof that it's human is that it grows into a full-fledged human. What if it is detected to have some kind of congenital defect, let's say mental retardation or some physical defect in the body? Then should we kill? Can anyone give any argument? If somebody says, well, let's say somebody comes to you and says, well, my child I'm 2 months pregnant or whatever, and the doctor says that there is a defect in the child. So when the child was delivered, it will have some mental defect, mentally retarded or physically handicapped or something. So then the doctor is recommending termination of pregnancy. So how will you advise? What argument will you give? Yes. Well, yes, then the question is that, yes, correct, we're on the right track. So suppose the child had been already born, and having been born, it was detected that he had or she had some abnormality. Would you kill the child after birth? What would you answer? No. If you won't kill the child after the child is just delivered, then why would you kill within the womb? Would you kill 1 day before birth? You wouldn't kill 1 day after birth. So will you kill 1 day before birth? No. Will you kill 2 days before birth? No. 3 days before birth? No. Keep going back, 1 day at a time. Then at which day will you say it is okay to kill and not kill? So you see the whole illogical thing that the modern civilization is caught up in. And so much cruelty is done to the innocent child in the womb. And it is a very heinous crime. You see, when there is a murder, then anyway it is a grave offense. But if you murder somebody who is helpless, like say an aged person who can't move or something like that, then the court will take an even stricter view and give a harsher punishment. Who can be more helpless than the child in the womb? Even an elderly person can do something, can at least press a bell, can call somebody on the phone, something they can do. But what can a child in the womb do? So the child in the womb is the most helpless living entity in the human species. And killing a child in the womb, therefore, will be the most heinous crime. And because there's such a large number of such abortions happening in the world, in millions every year, therefore, with so much of sinful activity going on, the karmic reactions are awesome. They are terrible. Srila Prabhupada said, the two of the most grave sins that are causing catastrophic consequences today, which is causing people to get slaughtered and killed in battles and wars and natural calamities and so on, are abortion and killing of cows. These both generate very heavy sinful reactions. So the time in the womb is a difficult period, but that doesn't give us the right to take the decision to kill somebody else. And even if it is an unplanned, unwanted pregnancy, then we have to bear the responsibility for our actions. We cannot not go through the whole motion. We have to protect the interests of the child as well. And it is unfortunate that in these situations, all the human rights organizations, etc., they don't speak up so much. Maybe some do. But it is very important that we protect the sanctity of life. So the time in the womb is a very important period in terms of developing the consciousness of the individual. Therefore, after the Garbhadhana Samskar has been done, now, when the conception takes place, then the Garbha Sanskar begins. Previously was Garbhadhana Samskar, and now will be the Garbha Sanskar. Garbha Sanskar means the impressions that are given to the child in the womb. So it is recommended in the scriptures that the mother especially, and naturally all the family members must cooperate, but especially the mother must be very, very Krishna conscious. She must absorb her mind in hearing and chanting about Krishna, in remembering Krishna, engage her body in Krishna conscious activities. She must regulate her diet. She must be in a very cheerful and positive mood. Members in the family must cooperate to see that she is not under tension. And as far as family issues are concerned, well, these things always happen. But even if the expectant mother commits a mistake, she should be considerately dealt with. Not that everybody will say you made a mistake and then scold her or something so that she loses her mental peace. There should be understanding so that at any cost, the expected mother's consciousness will be pure and her mind will be calm and peaceful. In the house, there must be a very, very devotional atmosphere with kirtans going on, some lectures being played, and all sorts of fragrant substances being offered to the deity in the temple, at home. So the overall ambience must be so devotional that eventually the child within the womb will absorb this atmosphere. And this will make the child very, very strong in Krishna consciousness. And even later, if the child is exposed to bad influences, somehow or the other, even if the child gets distracted by these influences, the basic character of the child and the spiritual inclination will not be destroyed. So this is the very important period in which the child has to be exposed to spirituality in a very serious way. So the mother must every day read the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam. And preferably, she must recite the Sanskrit verses also. Because reciting such verses are very purifying. In addition to chanting of the holy names, of course, reciting of these verses from the Gita and the Bhagavatam will be very helpful. The Sanskrit language in and of itself is very purifying. And when it is verses from the scriptures, it's even more purifying. Furthermore, another benefit is that because Sanskrit is such a perfect language and the mother of all languages, the child will automatically develop a flair for picking up different types of languages. One doctor was telling me that a child has the capacity to learn 36 languages. Just imagine that. 36 languages, that is the brain capacity of a child. You expose a child just for a short time to a language, picks up the language. Just the other day, we were with one child, and his grandfather, our Satya Sen Prabhu, was saying this child is using words like comprehensive. The age of 3. He's speaking words that even adults sometimes don't use. Comprehensive. Have you heard a 3-year-old child speaking comprehensive? So children can pick up very fast. So teaching them good languages, language skills is very important. One should be the mother tongue, and English, of course, they will learn anyway. But at least the child should learn 2 or 3 languages. And the beginning can be with Sanskrit in the womb. And there should be communication between the mother and the child. There are many people who do courses on this now. The communication has to be there, positive communication between the mother and also between the father and the child. And the child reciprocates. And in this way, the child emerges to be a very emotionally balanced and well-rounded child, psychologically very stable, and spiritually very strong. Very inclined towards spiritual life. So chanting these verses, singing devotional songs, chanting the holy names, reading Bhagavatam, hearing lectures, and if the Garbhadhan Samskar is done properly, sincerely over a period of months preparing for the whole conception, and then during the womb, the period in the womb, if the mother especially and the other family members as well have focused on giving a very nice atmosphere to the child and good samskaras, rest assured, this child will never deviate from Krishna consciousness significantly. Maybe minor deviations may happen because of the atmosphere outside, but it will always come back. So this period in the womb is a very crucial period. This is the time where Prahlad became actually a staunch, pure devotee, because he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam when he was in his mother's womb. When his father eventually left once more for performing austerities, and the kingdom was attacked by Indra, and Indra wanted to kill Kayadhu as well, but Narad Muni came and forbade her. He said, don't, because within the womb is a great devotee of Krishna. So then Indra circumambulated Kayadhu because the great devotee was within her womb. And then he left. Meanwhile, Narad Muni gave Kayadhu shelter in his ashram, and she stayed there. And he spoke Bhagavatam to her. The Bhagavatam was intended for the child, but it was spoken to the mother. As time went on, the mother forgot because she was an adult. And the child remembered because the power of absorption for the child in the womb is very strong. It's like a sponge. Picks up all these things. So if the child in the womb is exposed to quarrels in the house, and there's fighting, argumentation, people speaking in loud voices or harsh language and so on and so forth, or any sort of negativity is picked up by the child in the womb. In a subconscious way, it affects the mentality and the consciousness of the child. So Prahlad Maharaj became a pure devotee, and Srila Prabhupada gives examples of how great devotees practice Krishna consciousness at every stage in life, starting with the womb. And he gives the examples of Prahlad Maharaj and also of Parikshit Maharaj. When Parikshit was a small child in the womb of his mother Uttara, and the Brahmastra was released by Ashwatthama to kill the last descendant of the Pandavas, Uttara came running to Krishna. This is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Krishna actually expanded himself. He entered into the womb of Uttara, and in his four-armed form, he was circling the fetus. And the child, who later became known as Parikshit, was observing this transcendental, beautiful figure who was moving round and round very fast. With great fascination, he was looking, gazing at this figure. And because after he was born, he never could forget that sight. So he was all the time looking for that personality who he saw in the womb. And because he was thinking like that, he was called Parikshit, one who was always looking, examining. So therefore, here are examples of children in the womb who have done devotional service. So there is never any obstacle for people who say this is too early. Especially in Indian families, this is very common. The moment you start devotional service, you'll have any number of family members or relatives coming and telling you it's too early to do devotional service. So even if a 60-year-old person does that, they say the same thing. So it's too early. It's not too early. And then we should tell them examples of Prahlad and Parikshit who started devotional service in the womb. And then, of course, there is birth. Birth is a very, very painful experience. We all have mercifully forgotten it. For the mother, it's painful. For the child, it's painful. Only the others are happy and waiting for the birth. And therefore, the whole process is called labor pain, not labor pleasure. Because it's painful. So Krishna has created this world in such a way that there is pain at every step. The process of birth is one of the four fundamental pains or distresses in life. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that knowledge begins with understanding that this material world has these four types of sufferings: birth, death, old age, and disease. And at the time of birth, first of all, one comes from one situation inside the womb. All of a sudden, we come to the outside world. We're exposed to the open atmosphere. It is very traumatic. And this is also one of the reasons why we forget what happened in the womb and even the life before that. So death is traumatic, it makes us forget. And then birth is also traumatic, so it makes us forget. And therefore we are not able to remember what happened in the mother's womb. So after birth, when the child is delivered, then also there are many samskars to be done. And those sanskars, of course, there are two aspects to it. One is a ritualistic aspect. Ritualistic aspect meaning that there are ceremonies to be performed and so on, which is good and which must be done. However, the most important thing is the consciousness with which these samskaras are done. It is the devotional content of those ceremonies that is actually going to make a difference to the spiritual development of the child and to the character of the child. So Vedic culture was very, very evolved. It considered the development of the human being at every stage. Pre-conception, within the womb at different stages, there are some sanskaras to be done. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, at every stage certain things have to be done. Then after birth also there are so many sanskars to be done. It's serious business. And then as a child grows, yes, the child is exposed to so many different influences. In the beginning, the child is only aware of the family, the mother, the father, and so on. The child doesn't have any consciousness beyond that. But gradually, as the child's intelligence grows, his or her consciousness grows beyond mother, beyond father, and starts looking beyond. So in the phase of childhood also, this is again another period where the sanskars are very important. Sometimes devotees may get a little disheartened and say, well, we did not do a Garbhadhan sanskar, so then what will happen to our child? Is it a lost case then? Of course not. Some people will say, what to speak of Garbhadhan sanskar? We could not even do anything special within the womb, when the child was in the womb. Then is it a lost case? No. At least when the child is born, when the child is very, very young, that is the time we can give a lot of sanskars to the child. And unfortunately today in many places what happens is the child is exposed to many influences like television or material music or fighting or wrangling in the house, various other types of inputs. So at least in the house, the atmosphere must be maintained in a very devotional way, and the behavior of the elders must be exemplary, because the children will detect it at a subtle level, and when they grow up enough to be able to understand it, it will make a serious impact in their character and their consciousness and attitudes. So it is very important that adults should not act in a way that will spoil the consciousness of the child, will set a wrong example for the child. When I was coming here, I saw an advertising board by the Traffic Department of Australia. It says, what kind of driver are you raising? Have you seen that? And there's in one of those boards, there is a picture of the man who's driving, and he's very angry and he's shouting at somebody in a case of road rage. And the child is sitting behind in the child seat and is watching everything. And so the Australian Traffic Authority says that, what kind of driver are you raising? Meaning that whatever way you are driving, then he's going to see that. And he's going to think that's the way it's supposed to be done. I remember a little joke. One time one lady was driving and her little child was with her. And the child asked, so Mommy, where are those idiots? Mommy says, see, they're only there when your father drives. So when the father drives and he loses his cool and he shouts at everybody. So setting the example is very, very important. That is how children learn more than anything else. And we discussed a bit of this in that Grihastha seminar 2 years ago, if I remember right. And in this phase of childhood also, a tender stage, if good samskars are given, if the child is exposed to happy Krishna consciousness and also character building values are given to the child, even basic things, then the individual will turn out to be very well-rounded in the future. So if Prahlad Maharaj and Parikshit Maharaj are examples of great devotees who perform devotional service within the womb, who are the examples of people in childhood who became great devotees? Dhruva Maharaj is one example. And by the way, when we talk of the womb, Who can forget the example of Shukadev Maharaj? He was in the womb and he didn't want to come out of the mother's womb because he felt, I'll come into Maya. And his father says, come on, this is not done. You have to come out of your mother's womb. It's been a long time. And even when the time came for the delivery birth, he didn't want to go out. He stayed inside. And years passed. 12 years passed. In some cases it is mentioned 16 years. That was, of course, in Dwapar Yuga, but nevertheless. So he remained inside for 12 to 16 years. And Vyasadeva also could not convince him to come out. And only when Vyasadeva requested Krishna, then Krishna convinced him. He said, come out, I assure you, you will not fall in Maya. Then he came out. And as soon as he came out, he walked off to become a brahmachari. I don't know which ISKCON temple was nearby over there, but something must have been there. He went to join the ashram. As soon as he was born and Vyasadeva was behind him, my son, where are you going? So even within the womb, the child has a spiritual consciousness. And in childhood, that continues. So these experiences are very strong. Many of the major issues today that people have may be also because of childhood experiences. Sometimes they're because of previous life experiences that continue on, and some because of childhood experiences. Somebody had a bad experience in school, was bullied in school, was abused in school. So many things happen. So this is a very tender age, and complete protection, physical, mental, emotional, intellectual, and above all, spiritual protection is necessary. Dhruva Maharaj was only 5 years old when he saw the Lord. Even Prahlad Maharaj was only 5 years old when he saw the Lord. But there are others who demonstrate completely opposite traits. Shishupal, for example. It is said about Shishupal, who was actually like a cousin of Krishna, was a relative of Krishna. From the moment he could speak even a few words, he was always speaking ill about Krishna. You see, Shishupal was born very strange. He was born with 4 hands and 3 eyes. And he was braying like a donkey. Normally children cry like humans cry, like human babies cry, but he was braying like a donkey. So the parents got very, very scared and they were going to throw the baby off somewhere. And then an astrologer said, no, don't do that, because this child is going to become a very powerful, strong personality. Will become a king, actually. After you, they'll become very strong king. So then the parents said, but what can we do? 4 hands and 3 eyes and braying like a donkey? It's not acceptable. He said, no, the 2 extra arms will come off. The 3rd eye will also fall off. So how? When the person who is going to kill him will hold him in his arms, the 2 extra arms will fall off. And when this child sees his to-be killer, then the 3rd eye automatically will fall off also. So the king became very anxious and he called everybody. All the kings, somehow on some pretext or the other, he started calling them. And the 3rd eye remained, the 2 extra arms remained. One day Krishna came there because he was known to the family. And as soon as Shishupal saw Krishna, his 3rd eye fell off. And then the king, that is Shishupal's father, placed the child in the arms, in the lap of Krishna. And immediately his 2 extra arms fell off. And then Shishupal's mother prayed to Krishna, please don't kill my child. And Krishna said, okay, you are asking me, so I'll try to do something, but I cannot fully keep it. I can do one thing. I'll wait till he abuses me 100 times. Then I will kill him. But I will not kill him till he reaches abuse number 100. So Shishupal started practicing from childhood. He was pretty good at it. From childhood, he was simply talking ill about Krishna, very envious of Krishna, intensely envious of Krishna. So we see that that poison grew and grew because it was nurtured, cultivated in childhood. So when he grew up, it became like a blazing fire for him. Similarly, the Kauravas like Duryodhana, from very childhood they nurtured hatred and envy towards the Pandavas. So by the time they grew up, those feelings had grown like a tsunami, uncontrolled. Duryodhana was not in control of his envy. Even though he understood the logic of everything, when Sanjay explained to Dhritarashtra about Krishna's godhood, and Dhritarashtra was convinced and he tried to explain to Duryodhana, Duryodhana said, everything you say may be true. Even if Krishna has the power to destroy the universe just by moving his one eyebrow, still I will not surrender to him, rather I will arrest him. So this kind of intense envy, because it was nurtured from childhood, therefore it was his adult consciousness developed like that. So that phase of childhood is very, very significant and important. And in the community of devotees also, it is very important that collectively all the grihasthas come together to do something for the children, have regular training classes, regular fun classes. Many temples call it Gopal Fun School. I'm sure you have some sessions here like this. So it is the duty of the grihasthas to pool together their resources and do something to make sure that the children are given very good, strong sanskaras and bonding with the devotee community. So as the child moves on, can I have a watch please? When the child grows, the child is very receptive. The child again picks up very, very quickly. And as the child begins to grow, moves into boyhood or girlhood, the consciousness starts evolving. There are different stages. The first stage is called Kaumar or Balya, from birth to the age of 5. Then from the age of 6 to the age of 10, it's called Pauganda. From the age of 11 to the age of 15, it's called adolescence or Kaishora or pre-youth, Nava Yauvana. Does the word Nava Yauvana ring a bell? Nava Yauvanam cha. Krishna is Nava Yauvana. He is eternally an adolescent boy. So from 11 to 15 is Kaishor or Nava Yauvana, adolescent age. Also a very difficult age in human society. And then from 16 onwards is youth. This is how the phases for the first few years are divided. So as the child grows, consciousness expands, intelligence develops, the senses also start becoming awakened. And when one enters into adolescence, now the senses have started awakening and giving trouble. Till the age of 9 or 10, the senses may give trouble, but not in the way that they give trouble once the adolescent period starts. Then the hormones start developing in the body and it becomes a very challenging period for everyone concerned, including that child. This is the time when more care has to be exercised. At this time, the adolescent wants to explore the world, has started getting individual experiences of the world, wants to enjoy this world, is seeing what's happening around, starts becoming rebellious, starts wanting to be independent. doesn't like the restrictions imposed. And so, at that point, if somebody can be Krishna conscious, then that girl or boy will find it very, very useful for the future. That phase, that difficult phase, will be very important. And then further, as the adolescence grows into youth, then the senses are now even more strong. They're fully blown now. And at this time, if there is no good association, then one can get swept away. So at every stage, from childhood to boyhood or girlhood, and further on to adolescence and youth, appropriate spiritual association is very important. Devotional atmosphere is very important. Even after all this, in youth, like it happened with Ajamil, one may go on the wrong track. But still, because of those sanskars that he had in his younger days, Ajamil called his youngest son at the age of 80 as Narayan. And not Tommy or Bunty or something like that. He called him Narayan. He had the sense to call him Narayan. So children must be named after Krishna or based on some devotional theme, because everybody who calls them will feel the benefit. And generally the Vedic system is that at the time of birth, the astrologer will indicate the alphabet in which the name of the child has to be given. There may be more than one alphabet, maybe two, maybe three possible alphabets. And it's wise to keep names based on starting with those alphabets, because it is in tune with that child's psychology and vibrations and personality. It doesn't grate against that. So these things are very subtle. So it's helpful to do that and helpful to give Krishna's names. Nowadays, however, in India also, in other places, anyway, there's not much of a awareness of this. But even in India, the parents are very shy to give the names of Krishna to their children, or Radharani or Lakshmi, because they feel embarrassed. They want to give more modern names. They want to give more neutral names. Neutral, that they will not feel embarrassed about. So the tragedy of today's times is that people are feeling embarrassed to give God's names to their children. And they feel, oh, if I call my son, what will others say? So therefore, in the land of spiritual culture, we are seeing the very peculiar situation of people not wanting to name that. They will give such a name that sounds fashionable, sounds modern. And I experienced this many times because people keep asking me for giving names for child. We have such and such child, can you please give a name? So usually then I tell them, you give me 5 names, I'll select one. And the devotees themselves may be okay with it. They are fine because they are convinced in Krishna consciousness. They are happy to have any Krishna conscious name. But it's their parents and their elders, ironically, who then say, oh, no, they feel ashamed and embarrassed to have some quote-unquote old-fashioned name like this. Keshav or Damodar. So, oh, it's too old-fashioned. They want something very modern, something neutral, that doesn't indicate to anybody of anything religious or spiritual. So naming is also something very important. And we see that Prabhupada followed the practice, not always 100%, but more or less. That after initiation, the name that he would give would begin from the same alphabet as the alphabet from which that devotee's name began, previous name, his karmi name. And that practice was followed in India, because in India, At the time of birth, based on the alphabet, the name was given. So after initiation, also the same alphabet was followed. So that thing was respected, even in spiritual life. And just see the kind of benefit that people get by chanting Krishna, Govinda, Narayana. You get names like that. You don't get any benefit by chanting Tommy, Bunty, and so on. But you can get so much benefit by chanting Krishna's names. So in the phase of youth, a very turbulent phase, now one has grown up. Now one doesn't want to listen to anybody. One's sense of independence has peaked. And at this time, as Chanakya says, one should treat the child as a friend beyond that age. Then it's not possible to deal with the child like you used to before. So in this phase, the senses are full blown. Any examples of those who became devotees in youth? Great devotees. We saw in the womb, who were the examples in the womb? Prahlad, Parikshit. What about childhood? Dhruva Maharaj. Now what about youth? From the Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadeva was also within the womb, and yes, when he came out, he got Krishna consciousness. Yes, as a youth, as an adolescent. Two very famous kings. Parikshit Maharaj within the womb. But in youth, Ambarish Maharaj and Bharat Maharaj. In the peak of their youth, Srila Prabhupada says, they performed Krishna consciousness. And even though they had so much opulence and facilities at their disposal, they never wavered in their Krishna consciousness even one bit. So in full-blown Krishna consciousness, with their full-blown senses, they continue to serve Krishna. So youth is actually the good time to surrender to Krishna because one's senses are the strongest at this phase. One can do the greatest amount of service to Krishna. And also that is the time when the senses can lead us astray as well. When the senses are the strongest and the most passionate. So at that time, if the senses are engaged in Krishna's service, then the young person will be protected, the youth, from getting into wrong, destructive lifestyles and habits. So Ambarish Maharaj and Bharat Maharaj both were in that category. Bharat Maharaj renounced the world even as a young man. He installed his son on the throne and he left. He was completely detached. And of course you all know the story of how he became attached to a deer and so on. And then later became born as Jada Bharat. So youth also is an important phase. The whole Krishna consciousness movement has grown because of youth and old age. Whose old age? Prabhupada's old age. And whose youth? The disciples' youth. The followers of Prabhupada at that time were aged between 14 and 30. Actually, not even 30. 26 was probably the oldest, 27. And that was a hippie generation in which the hippies used to say, don't trust anyone above the age of 30. Because they were anti-establishment. They did not want to comply or conform to the rules and the norms of their elders. They wanted to live life on their own. So this was their slogan, don't trust anyone above the age of 30. And here was a man who was not 30, but almost 2.5 times that. And they not just trusted him, they surrendered their life to him. And because they were all young people, Mostly they were like around 19, 20, 21, 22. From 18 to 22 was the maximum number of devotees who came to Prabhupada. And because of that youth, the energy and the dynamism, he was able to spread the whole movement so far and wide. By the time Prabhupada left, the senior most devotees were in their late 20s or maybe early 30s at the most. And they had the responsibility to run the whole worldwide movement at that age. So in youth also one must practice. Fortunately within our movement, that emphasis on the youth has continued. Therefore, universities and schools and so on, devotees try to move out and preach Krishna consciousness. So as the person moves on into youth, then the time comes to settle down. There is the Grihastha ashram. Middle age comes in with all its complexities and all its problems. Responsibilities increase. And then another phase of life begins. One saint has said, Balyastavat kridasaktaha, tarunastavat tarunisaktaha, vriddhastavat chintasaktaha, parepi brahmani kopi nasaktaha. In childhood, one is attached to playing. One is restless and one likes to keep on playing. In youth, the boy is attracted to the girl is attracted to the boy, and that way youth goes away. In old age, one is attached to worrying, chinta sakta. So one likes to worry about everything. This is the nature of the age. So in this way, this saint has said, childhood passes like that, youth passes like that, old age passes like that, with different attachments. So where is the time when one will get attached to the absolute truth? Parepi brahmani kopi na saktaha. Nobody is attached to the absolute truth at any stage in life. So having reached youth, if one is not trained properly in Krishna consciousness in one's childhood, then it will be very, very difficult for one to be happy and peaceful and face the challenges of life. So we'll stop here for now. We'll leave some time open for question and answers. And then also I would like to show a little film for 10 minutes that shows us, that film still available? Already shown. Okay, fine. So we'll have some questions and answers now, and we'll see how that goes. So in this session, we have discussed the period in the womb, birth, childhood, adolescence, and youth. Do we have that picture of the transmigration of the soul through the different stages of life? Meanwhile, if there are any questions, we can try to have them.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, in the morning you touched upon, how mother leaves the child in the child care, and that topic.
So, have I touched a raw nerve somewhere here? I hope not. I don't know how all of you manage. I was just making general points. So, yes.
Now, with the present situation, Maharaj, could you please shed a light on that? How to manage or without situation? Is it good or should we need to...
How to manage without sending your children to some child care
Yes, Maharaj.
when both parents are working.
Yes, Maharaj.
At least have some devotee set up, a devotee childcare set up, if at all you have to do that. Why not the devotee community gets together to do this? It will be a great service. It can also be a source of livelihood for some. And the children will at least have a devotional atmosphere, rather than leaving them with completely materialistic people who are going to give them their sanskars. And we have no idea what they do there when we are not there. They may tell you, well, we're going to sing songs for them, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But essentially the whole vibrations and everything. And they are there for so many hours every day. So a very vital period is left there. And of course the idea of everybody working and so on, and the children get neglected, that's another complication. Looking after the child is a top priority. It is above all important above everything else. One of the greatest contributions that the Grihastha ashram can make, among other things, it's not that it's the only contribution, but one of the very major contributions that the Grihastha ashram makes to the world at large is to supply to the world noble citizens of very good character, well-rounded personalities, spiritually developed individuals who can make a very great positive difference to the world. So this is the duty of the Grihastha ashram. Krishna has sent children or spirit souls to the care of the Grihastha. This is my child, Krishna says. You look after this child and make him or her a devotee, a pure devotee. So therefore we have to invest that kind of time and energy and give it that kind of priority. Right? And if still it is necessary for both people to work, then at least some such arrangement can be made. But still, mind you, the parents can't shirk off the responsibility. Even once your child starts going to school, it's not that now the whole responsibility is on the school. Now the school has started, so my job is, I have relieved now, I've outsourced it to the school. The critical role of the parent continues. So the sanskars have to be given continued as much as possible at home. Okay? Is that the... Yes. So these are the pictures from Prabhupada's books that show, these three. The whole... what happened? Oh. Okay, so this is how... No, I think, can we fix it? So this is the whole... The other picture, the cycle, how it goes, back and forth and back and forth. Just going on and on and on. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani, jatare shayanam, iha sansare, bahudustare, kripaya pare, pahi murare. Punarapi jananam, again there's birth. Punarapi maranam, again there's death. Punarapi janani jatare shayanam, then after death again, being in the mother's womb. Iha sansare bahudustare. This material world is very difficult, my dear Lord. So please protect me and deliver me from this material existence. O Murari, kripaya pare, pahi murari. So these are pictures that, the one on the left you can see in the different species of life. We can wander through the 8.4 million species of life. And the other two pictures essentially are showing how it happens in the human form of life. And also, the one on the bottom right indicates how the body is like a dress. You can see the body being zipped off at the lower end, lower right, indicating that the body is like a dress. So the transmigration is going on like this, from dust to dust in different species. The human form, it is very special. Okay, questions. What role does the mercy of a pure devotee have on a soul whose destiny is predetermined? Or, how do children who do not go through the process of Garbhadhana Sanskar become good devotees with good qualities? Yes, even if somebody for some reason has not been able to do these things, never mind. Better start from now. Give your children whatever is possible for you to give them in terms of Krishna consciousness. And yes, the mercy of a pure devotee and of all devotees in general is very important. And that can make a very significant difference on the consciousness of the child and even of the youth, or even an adult for that matter. So even if we have not been able to do these things, the process of devotional service and mercy of the devotees in Krishna will make a very significant impact. So yes, do not be disheartened if you haven't been able to do that, Garbhadhan Sanskar and the Garbha Sanskar and so on. Now you can start. Take to Krishna consciousness very seriously. And surely with the Lord's and the devotees' mercy will come. Second question. Is the soul that has to be born to parents predetermined when we are born? Yes, usually it will happen like that. It is already ordained, because according to our karma, we are going to get a certain type of birth. So therefore, the parents are also decided in many ways. And for the parents, the child is decided. In the case of Bhakta Prahlad, as you explained, what is partial incarnation? The partial manifestation means that he's an expansion of the original Prahlad. Even jivas can expand, but only perfected, liberated souls can expand, not us ordinary conditioned souls. And then that expansion, the partial manifestation of Prahlad, that jiva, comes here, and he also has to do some bhakti. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained that Prahlad, who is here, is a combination of a Nitya Siddha and a Sadhana Siddha devotee. Nitya Siddha devotees are those who are always in the spiritual world, eternally perfect. Nitya Siddha. Sadhana Siddha are those who are here in this material world. And by dint of their sadhana, the devotional practices, they attain perfection. Each soul, you mentioned that each soul enters through seeds. Is that only one means to transfer to another human body? Well, generally, yes. There may be other ways, I do not know, but at least this method is definitely mentioned in the scriptures. You may also ask questions pertaining to the previous session if you like. The morning session or the afternoon session. So I've closed early to give sufficient time for questions. Yeah, question from previous session. Okay. What about souls who are born in ignorance and then become great devotees like Jagai and Madhai? What category are they? Well, that they are only externally born in ignorance, but they are all associates. Actually, Jagai and Madhai are Jay and Vijay from Vaikuntha. And they have got the chance to come and participate in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. In order to illustrate the supreme mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu upon the fallen souls of this age, so they enacted the roles of being most fallen and then being so miraculously delivered by the Lord and His devotees. Are there any other questions? Yes. Pertaining to the morning session or to this afternoon session?
Horrible Maharaj. He said pre-youth and youth, they don't like restriction, they like to explore, they rebel. So as a father, as a devotee father, how to handle, how to control, what to do?
Well, it's a very general question and difficult to answer. It depends case to case. Not everybody is like that. But in many cases, it does happen like that. That would need to, the case to case, one would have to examine it. But in general, one obviously has to give some freedom because at this age, that freedom is necessary. You cannot bind more than as. What you can do is till the age of 15 or so, as Chanakya Pandit says. Till the age of 15, 16, that's it. And even then, nowadays, it's difficult. By the time they're 10, 11, they have a mind of their own and they want to do what they want to do. So till the age of 15, we have to give whatever sanskars we can on all platforms. And then after that, we just have to give them good association, give them good shelter and support and so on. That's the reality of this world. Especially it's happening in India a lot too. And in the West as well. So parenting is not an easy thing. It's difficult. But it's a very important thing. It's very important. Because it's difficult, many people today don't want to be parents all over the world. And one of the reasons for that is that their parents haven't been good examples. Overall, a lack of devotional culture, a lack of samskars, lack of good examples. So it's all become a very complicated situation overall. So the outside atmosphere is very bad for a spiritual aspirant. So the children get exposed to the outside world. And the force of the outside world, the force of Kali Yuga is very powerful, very powerful. Almost irresistible, even for adults, what to speak of youth. Even old people, elders on the point of death even for them it is irresistible. When I was going back from my last visit to Australia, back to India last year, I had in the seats behind me, the row behind me, a couple of traditional elderly ladies from Bangalore. And I could understand what they were speaking, I could get an idea. And they were watching the entertainment channels. Not for a moment was there anything, even by mistake, that was devotional that they discussed. And it was only non-stop chatter, and they were watching Tom and Jerry, and they were watching so many other movies in the thing, because they're elderly people, but they're just exposed to all this now. All the movies and entertainment. And elders are going mad. What to speak of, young people. So how can we blame the young people? Because they haven't also. They are like that because the culture was there. Somehow they're still sticking to the culture, so they haven't really gone off the top end, so to speak. But for the youngsters, there's no such binding. So much social pressure. So They do things like that. So we have to be sensitive. We have to be sensitive to them and be along with them. There is a community in America of Christians. They call the Amish, I think. And they have very strong values. They are Christians. They give a lot of emphasis to good devotional upbringing of the children and so on and so forth. They have their own educational system. And then when there are some young people who want to go out of their educational system after they pass out and want to do further studies in the university, then now they have started allowing them over the last few decades. Otherwise, previously they would only go up to year 8 in school and that was it. Then they would just work in the farms and be with them, and they would have a very strongly bonded community, very united, strongly united. Then when these young people started going to university, they were brought up in sheltered environments. And when they got exposed to university life, and with all that happens in universities in America, they would just go mad. So then the Amish, they had a policy. They gave them a free hand. And after 4 years or 5 years, 90% of them came back. They had a 10% casualty rate. So they accepted that 10% casualty rate. But 90% will come back. Why did they come back? Number one, and most important, they had the very strong sanskars, of their sanskars, of course. That upbringing and the values and the affection and everything they received was so strong that even when they got exposed outside, they went mad for a few years. They did everything under the sun possible. But then they realized this is not it. They saw the true face of this kind of life. They got disillusioned. No, our culture is the real thing. They came back. So therefore, when children have grown up beyond a certain age, you can only do so much. We cannot force them beyond a point at that age. Then we have to treat them more like friends and appeal to their adult intelligence to bring them onto the path. Okay? It's a challenge in this day and age. But every age has its own challenges. So we have to face it head on. Okay, next question. Jaya Vijay were cursed for 3 lifetimes by Ashwini Kumaras. Not Ashwini Kumaras, Ashwini Kumaras are different, just by the 4 Kumaras. Yes. Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Ravan, Kumbhakarna, Shishupal, Dantavakra. How Jagai and Madhai is considered as Jaya and Vijay? They were a special avatar. Just as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's special avatar comes specially for a purpose, so Jaya and Vijay also were called in specially as a special case. Next question. You explained in the morning how the soul enters a mother's womb. For example, the soul from the heavenly planet. My question is, after death of the body, how long it takes for the soul to get another body? That is tomorrow's question. If it is not answered, then you may ask this again. We still haven't reached that stage in the evolution. We are still at middle age. We have not reached old age, not death, post-death. We are yet to come there. Next. It is very difficult to not feel left out as a devotee working in the corporate world, especially when you see devotees also quarreling and gossiping. Who do you reach out for association in this case without feeling isolated and also bring up children? Well, it is true, we may feel a little left out in the place of work. That is also natural because our worlds, our lives are different. Their aspirations and our aspirations are completely different. So we can't compromise our principles. So we have to go on with our principles, but we can interact with them on a certain common minimum platform. Just like, in India nowadays in politics, you have, even enemy political parties coming together to make a coalition government. And they have what is called a CMP, Common Minimum Program. So they say, okay, we have wide differences with each other, but, we can work together and form the government with a common minimum understanding. So similarly, when we are in office, we should have the CMP, Common Minimum Program. Whatever some minimum thing that doesn't conflict with our principles, we can do that. And rest, we are just courteous. So we maintain a very nice, courteous and warm relationship as far as is possible. As far as devotees who may sometimes quarrel and gossip, well, after all, they're also human beings. And devotees are also practicing Krishna consciousness in order to attain perfection. There may be a little defect here and there, but we shouldn't take that too seriously. Overall, we should ourselves all try to become serious so that others don't feel like this about us, that people are gossiping or quarreling and so on. We should be cautious that we deal with each other and we behave in a way that is in keeping with spiritual ideals and principles. But even if such things do happen sometimes, it is only sometimes after all, not all the time. And even if it happens, we should take it in our stride, because those very devotees will also have many good qualities. So we should try to get the benefit of that association. Okay, why is it that in the same house, one child is a devotee, the other child is not? Same house, same parents, same environment. Why both kids are different? Who can answer? Huh? Satasad Yoni Janmasu, yes. But why two children in the same house, same parents, same house, same upbringing, same environment? Why one is a devotee, other is not a devotee?
The presence or absence of Bhakti Onmukhi Sukriti.
Okay, what does it mean?
That means that what kind of devotional credits they are carrying.
Yes, so from previous life, they bring their inclinations or disinclinations with them. So some may be a devotee, some may not be a devotee. And amongst siblings also, sometimes they may become devotees at different times, depending on where they are at in the ladder of spiritual evolution. It's very common to find that. Even Prahlad had brothers. Yes? Not all were devotees. And also in Prahlad's time, the Garbhadhan was done. The others, it wasn't done. That could be another reason. Okay, it is said that when the child comes out, he or she comes in contact with Maya. Does this mean that in the womb there is no influence of Maya? There is, but there is no capacity for the child to do anything, because the child is basically inactive. The child is not exposed to the outside world. The child doesn't know more or less what's going on, except what it can feel and hear in the immediate vicinity of the mother's body. But when the child comes out, then Maya is there in full force. So the entire vision and the field of Maya comes into play. Next, what decision should be taken if the situation comes that either the child or mother can be saved and not both? Yes, that is a very difficult situation. That, compared to the number of abortions that take place, the number of cases of this sort are very, very, very small. Most of the abortions that take place in the world are not for this reason. Whenever we talk about abortion, one of the first things people will say, well, what about this? And they talk about this case. And my response is always, Well, what about the millions of others who are not in this category? What about them? Why should we try to rationalize and justify millions of wrong activities because in some case it may be a risk to the mother's life? In many cases, it is not 100% risk. Actually, I know some cases where the doctors told them, you better abort. And the mother was a devotee, the father also. They were firm, we will not abort. The doctor said, no, they will have such and such problem. And the child is fine. And they went back to the doctor and said, look, you scared us and told us so many things. And had we listened to you and aborted this child, we would not have got this child. Just look at this child. Everything is normal, wonderful child in every respect. So similarly, when they talk about the danger to the life of the mother, we have to be sure that it's really like that. Is it really life-threatening? That life-threatening? And then if it comes to it, well, what can be done? One life has to be saved rather than both lives, because if the mother dies, the child will also die. So instead of killing 2 lives, all right, take 1 life instead of 2. But even then, it's a very tricky kind of a situation. How can we encourage our child to chant even though the child enjoys all other kinds of devotional services and practices but refrains from chanting? Well, at least the child is interested in devotional practices, so that's a good sign. So keep the child engaged in all these practices. Let the child develop a taste for these things. Let Krishna consciousness become a very happy experience for the child. And then gradually, the child will come into it. Induce the child in so many ways. By positive trickery. By healthy, positive trickery. Induce them in this way and that way, and slowly you can bring them on the path. Any other questions? Yes. Is there a mic there? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is just related to the last question, that should we force the child to chant or to do Ekadasi or to sit for the classes, maybe just for 15 minutes, half an hour? Should we do like that? Is it good or not? Or from what age we should do that?
What do you all think? What do you think? We have 2 young men sitting here, no? Should your mother force you to chant? Yeah. What's your name? No, this boy. Will you? Yes? You like it if you're asked to chant? Your mother asks you to chant? Yes? So they don't mind.
Yes, when they are in front of everyone, they say yes. And when they go home, and if we ask them chant, they say no, it's so boring. And while doing Ekadasi as well, on the particular day of Ekadasi only, they will feel to eat something else. So, should we force them to do that, or should we? What should we do?
I have to be very diplomatic, I'm thinking. Certain degree of force is all right. Certain degree. But the question is of how much. What is that certain degree? It depends case to case. And if you make it very attractive, and you induce the child in some attractive ways, then maybe the child will be inclined to do that. Fundamentally, we should go back to the root. Where is the root? Where is the root? Huh? Which one? Garbhadhana samskar. Ultimately, we have to go back to the root. That is the real solution. We have to go back to the But even if that is not done, all right, do the best you can in the situation. Don't get frustrated. And even if don't force the child beyond a point, to the degree that the child begins to dislike Krishna consciousness. That is not good. Sometimes they rebel like that. If they are forced too much, that is not good. But also, as I said earlier, the grihasthas and the devotee community should come together to think about ways and means to give their children happy Krishna consciousness. Maybe you can go for treks, you can go take them out for different trips so that they get strong bonding amongst other devotee children and so on and so forth. Different types of programs for them. So because upbringing is a very serious business, and there's a saying in English, it takes a village to raise a child. It's not just one family. The impact is there on so many counts. So the devotee community should come together, think how we can make our children more Krishna conscious. When they're all together and doing something Krishna conscious, it's much easier for the children to do that. Okay, you said that by performing garbhadhana, garbha, etc. samskaras, sufficient pre-planning, etc., one can choose what kind of soul one will attract. However, you also said that a child is placed into the family according to both parties' karma, destiny, etc. Could you please reconcile or clarify this? Of course, ultimately, your devotional bearing can alter your karma to a significant degree. Because Krishna consciousness is the only thing that can alter and change karma. Karmani nirdahati kintucha bhakti bhajam. In a general sense, the child will come as per destiny. But if you prepare, that's also part of it. If that was all there is to it, then destiny would mean that you don't do anything and just let whatever happen by destiny. No, we also are expected to act for purification. That is our duty as human beings. We act for the sake of purification, we take the initiative to do things, because that karma also is involved in the picture. It is not only the past karma of the previous life. And if one is practicing Krishna consciousness very seriously, and one does the samskaras, then Krishna can very easily send a very, very devoted soul to be our child. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful lecture. You mentioned that the age of the youth is very important, and if someone is in Krishna consciousness at that point, it will serve them well for the future. I was just wondering, because we get youth from non-devotee families who are very inspired through uni preaching and stuff like that. How do we guide those devotees when they have a very bad environment in their house, but they're very inclined to Krishna consciousness because they don't get the better of two worlds anyway?
It's more or less the same as any other adult. It's the same situation. Maybe a little sensitive because he or she is the youngest in the house and probably people are not taking them seriously enough. But again, one has to be very sensible and very sensitive to the fears and concerns of others. And one should pacify the concerns. The first thing everybody thinks, whatever your age, whatever your gender, the moment you start doing this thing, you'll take sannyas. Yes, you're going to leave everything and go away. So everyone starts getting afraid. This is a big misconception. So at home, one should deal very intelligently, very sensibly, sensitively, so that by our behavior, people don't get afraid that we are practicing Krishna consciousness. That they will slowly begin to appreciate it, they will lose their fear, that we are doing a good thing. We should act in a very responsible way. So even if university students do this at home, then their parents will not get alarmed. Okay, and that goes for everyone actually. Because when you become a devotee, initially you're on fire, isn't it? You just discovered this fantastic new universe that conviction, the happiness that goes with it, and you just want to tell everybody and you want to be there very strongly, and others may get a little disturbed by that. So while it's perfectly fine to just be blissful and happy, but one should also interact a little reasonably with others around us so that Krishna consciousness can go on in a stable way.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the class. I was actually wondering when you mentioned about how the soul actually comes into the body from the grain and everything. Can you a little bit explain a little bit more on that? Because when I was actually thinking in a way that when we actually eat the grains, we mostly cook them, so the soul is already, when we actually eat the fruits, just for an apple, we actually eat all the good part and we throw the seeds out. And so, if you could elaborate a bit more on that.
Well, if you throw away the seed, and if there's a soul there, then obviously the soul doesn't get in. But the soul is not killed by boiling. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na kleshayanti yad apo, na shoshayati marutaha. So it cannot be cut into pieces by any weapon, cannot be wetted by water, cannot be dried by the wind, cannot be burnt by fire. So even if you boil the grain, the soul is not getting boiled. The soul remains spiritual, it's untouched by these things. So whether you eat it raw or you eat it boiled or roasted or fried, it makes no difference. Right?
The soul actually leaves this body. In the same way, does it happen with the grain and other stuff?
No. The soul leaves the body because at the time of death, we burn the body after the soul has already left. It's not that because we burn the body, the soul leaves. When we die, we are cremated. After death, we are cremated. If there's death because of burning, it's because the body has not remained a place that is fit for habitation for the soul. It's like if somebody burns down our house, we'll run out of the house. So similarly, the soul leaves and goes. But for the grain, there is no such issue. It's not really like a house for the soul. The soul is just using it as a vehicle to be able to enter and take birth in some form of life. Any other question? Yes. I think the mic is not on.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. The question is pertaining the morning session. You were saying that, if we don't perfect in Krishna consciousness in this lifetime, there is a chance of us to get elevated to the heavenly planets, and then after a while we come down. Now, because there's so much of enjoyment and there's so much of delusion in the heavenly planets, is there a possibility of actually forgetting all the the Krishna conscious work that we did in the past? And that way, when we come down, do we have to start all over again, from the beginning?
We may get distracted, yes. But fortunately, Krishna consciousness, once performed, is never lost. So, if you left off at 50% and then you were elevated to the heavenly planet and then came back, you start off with 50%. And maybe in the heavenly planets also you did some devotional service. Of course, there was a lot of distractions, somras and everything. But even after that, some devotional service was done. So maybe you went to 60 and you start off here from 60 again. So wherever we left off in the previous life, we start off from there. Neha bhikramanashosti pratyavayo navidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Krishna says that devotional service is never destroyed. And it protects one from the greatest type of fear, which is forgetting Krishna in the next life. So one will be able to continue one's Krishna consciousness. That is the very encouraging news. So we have nothing to fear. At the same time, we shouldn't rely on that, because what the scenario will be when we come back again after heavenly planets, it will be a totally different Sydney that we come to, if at all we come to Sydney. Because when we go to the heavenly planets, we will spend thousands of years there. And thousands of years in the heavenly planets would mean many lakhs of years, or much longer period over here. So when we come back, Kali Yuga would be in full force. So we don't want to delay it. We want to go back at the end of this life. So we should take Krishna consciousness very seriously now. Okay, yes, somebody had a hand raised there? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is regarding children who are above 16. What do you do to prevent them being on phones 24/7? They don't have time for us. I mean, I know I'm going to incur wrath of my kids once we get into the car, because that's what they do constantly. It's just either iPhone or it's iPad or it's computer. It's just one of the machines, and they just don't seem to understand anything else. No matter what logic you give, it's useless. And generally the tendency is parents don't know anything. You don't understand. You don't know anything. So how do I behave in order to make them understand or take that on board, that kind of behavior?
This is a problem that is there everywhere. It's not just for young people. Nowadays, everyone is on this. And you go to public places, and everywhere is just everyone. They don't even talk to each other. There's so many films on this now. Not by devotees, by non-devotees. So many films that are bemoaning the fact that we've lost our interpersonal relationships, because everybody has relationships only with that thing. So this is a problem everywhere. So no point only blaming your children for it. It's the whole modern civilization that is there. Everyone else around is doing the same thing. So we just have to practice our Krishna consciousness so strongly and give them those sanskars and encourage them, and they will eventually do what is right. And it's not only them, the grown-ups are also doing it. You go to a railway station, tube, you see walking, everybody's. You see so many humorous pictures people send of a public space, people standing at a bus stop. Every one of them is doing this. Not one is looking up or looking at each other, who's the other person next to me. They're so busy communicating with somebody miles and miles away that they don't want to communicate with somebody who's next to them. And this happens at home also. So this is the problem with modern technology. It's making everything more and more impersonal. In the name of enhancing communication, you're actually making people go away from each other. Sorry? Okay, there was one question. In the grain, is the soul dormant or can it feel, etc.? It's dormant. You say the soul is in the grains we eat. So then does this mean we can have more than one soul inside us? It's not necessary that every grain will have a soul. Not necessary. The soul will come to some particular grain or grains. Not necessary that everyone will have to have. How do we explain the importance of Garbhadhan Samskar to a devotee woman whose husband is averse to Krishna consciousness? Well, then the problem is not to explain to the devotee woman, the problem is to explain to the husband. Right? Your question is, so the devotee will understand, the lady will understand if she is a devotee, but if the husband doesn't understand, then at least he will understand the need for the child to have a good mental balance, to have good character, to be healthy, to be emotionally balanced, and all these things that anybody will appreciate, will want in their children. That can be explained to them. Just leave out the spiritual component, tell them the other benefits of doing it. All right, so yes, one last question. It's almost 5 o'clock.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
As we normally say that Krishna punishes or rewards you in proportion to the good or bad you have done. Maybe
Yes.
in this life or the past life.
Yes.
No, that good or bad is being done by the body or the soul? My first question.
It is the body that does it.
It is body.
It is
if it is the body, then my body has done something wrong in the past life. Why this body made to suffer for that? Or if it is something good in the past life, why this body is rewarded in this life?
The body is the instrument for the work to be done, but the body is not alone and independent in doing that work. Behind the gross body, there is a subtle body. Behind the subtle body, there is a soul. So, when we perform some activity, then the reaction comes on the gross body. And if that gross body is changed, it will come onto the next body, because ultimately the mind is the same. The subtle body that experiences that pain continues life after life. It is only the gross body that changes. That will be cremated, that will be burnt. But the subtle body, the mind, intelligence and false ego continues to move on with the soul life after life. Okay, so thank you very much. We will stop here now. What is the program now? We are winding up. Should we have 5 minutes of kirtan, a little bit? Just two heavy sessions, of so many grains and souls and yes? Okay. Mahamantra. Now I think next time devotees start eating grains, they'll be wondering, is there a soul in this grain? What is there in this grain? Maybe the demigod has come here in this, or what? Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, ISKCON Sydney Yatra ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath ki Jai, Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna.